So here we go. Herbert, touchdown! Let's go! Khalil Herbert! And it's a 2-score lead for the Bears. Are you kidding me? Let's go! One more snap, and the impossible happens. There it is! Let's go! They did it! They did it as the team slides into the end zone in the rain. The Bears upset the 49ers in week 1. Can you believe this? Let's go! Well. What do we have here? Another seasons of Bears football. And guess what? No one believed in them to win this opener against San Francisco. But guess what? In the rain, they proved them all wrong. That's right, they proved them all wrong because the Bears, winners in week 1. 10-19 over the San Francisco 49ers in the downpour in Chicago. Welcome back, everyone, to season number 3 of my reaction to every Bears game. This one was a roller coaster. Not necessarily because it was more of the second half. The first half was pretty, I wouldn't want to say boring, but pretty, routine for the Bears. Yes, this one has looked like many games that the Bears have played over the last handful of seasons in which they've come close, but they played well, the defense kept them in them, the offense couldn't do anything. Defense was holding the other team to pretty much nothing, keeping them in this game single-handedly. The other team usually pulls away in these games. The script flipped in this one. It took a break to get there. Bears were only down 7-0, and throughout the late stages of the second quarter and the early stages in the third quarter, Joe Davis, who has just been promoted to the number 2 broadcast team after not even being part of the main 6 last season, got bumped up to the number 2 spot after his promotion to the World Series commentator, with Joe Buck leaving the network. Joe Davis was all over this, saying, I have no idea how the Bears are still in this game, how it's only 7-0, 10-0, 10-7, and the Bears have the ball. Plenty of times. Him and Daryl Johnston were both saying this. And honestly, I was kind of sitting there thinking, why are you surprised? This has happened plenty of times throughout these past couple of seasons. The only difference between this one and many of the other ones is that in the end, the Bears end up losing by a couple scores after the defense gets tired and then gets just gassed. But this time, they stuck with it. They were resilient in this one. They held tough. Through the first 2.5 quarters, Justin Fields did not throw a pass to a receiver, or at least throw a completion to a receiver, until one play midway through the third quarter. The Bears offense got a little bit going. By the time the end of the first half came around, they ended up coming up short of a field goal attempt due to a really stupid penalty that the NFL had. But, rules are rules. It's not necessarily an unwritten rule, but it's a obscure rule that we ended up getting penalized for. Our punter, who is not Pat O'Donnell anymore, he was let go and signed with Green Bay, of course, because this is just how it goes. Our new punter, who's still wearing 16, decides, he wants to help out his kicker. Because in pregame, it was pretty bad and it was rainy. So he wanted to just wipe down the surface a little bit, use a towel, soak up some of the moisture so that Cairo Santos has the best shot to get a nice kick in for 3 points. Only problem is this is apparently illegal. 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct, and the Bears end up punting on the drive. And that one, I don't even know how to react. I mean, it's a dumb penalty, but at the same time, it's an obscure penalty, and it's in the rule book, apparently. And if it's in the rule book, it's against the rules, can't do it, it's illegal, 15 yards. I think it's a bit of much for a penalty. And it's weird hearing something like that as unsportsmanlike conduct, but I don't know. Bears end up punting and they don't do anything for the rest of the first half. It's a bit of a long story to get to the main point I was going for a minute ago. It's about the mid-stage of the third quarter. Bears' first drive, I believe. It's a 3rd-and-1 situation. The offense looking all right. He finally found a receiver on this play after the first half just consisted of run after run after run up the middle, and the Bears are going 3-and-outs. Justin Fields was making some magic happen, getting some offensive work with his legs. So it ends up being a 3rd-and-1, and Fields is under pressure immediately. Pocket collapses, gets away from one defender, gets away from another, kind of. They're still in pursuit. And at this point, I'm thinking, okay, he's going to take off. He's going to find a way to get through this tackle and run ahead for a first down. That's not what he does. Justin Fields, scanning the field one last time, finds a wide open receiver across the field. So rolling to his left, Justin Fields heaves across the field and finds Dante Pettis, a new pickup from the offseason, and he takes this catch, his first catch with the Bears, first receiver catch of the season, and he's got there's probably no one 10 yards around him in a big circle, and he runs this thing, and he keeps going, and it's got a big gain anyways, but he keeps going, and he scores a touchdown, and that is what the Bears needed. They needed a break like that, and they got it, and Dante Pettis, with the first touchdown of the season for the Bears, goes for 51 yards. And through the rest of the game, the Bears had under 100 yards of offense, and they almost matched their total offensive yardage total on that one play. So they did something on offense, and at this point, it's a dogfight, and we're just asking the defense to do anything they can to stop them. And the Bears defense comes up big, gets a big stop for the offense, and Justin Fields takes over and leads a 10-play, I believe, 84-yard drive that goes over the end of the third quarter and ends it with a nice dime to Equanimous St. Brown for a touchdown to get the Bears the lead early in the fourth quarter. And you can see just everyone in the stadium had no idea and it just sits there in disbelief. Even the Bears fans in the stadium are sitting there in disbelief like, oh my gosh, we're actually winning this game now. The broadcast booth is stunned, and the entire NFL sphere, everyone who follows the NFL is in shock with the fact that the Bears are down 10. The Bears are now in front. Granted, it's only 3 points since Cairo Santos missed the PAT, which it made me feel a little less safe because now the Niners, all they need is a field goal to tie. But on the ensuing 49ers drive, on their second series, on 3rd down, Trey Lance fires a low pass at the sticks, which is intercepted by Eddie Jackson. Finally, man, he's had a rough year or two. Last year was really bad for Eddie Jackson. Comes up with a big interception here and a big takeaway that puts the Bears in prime field position to strike again. And that's exactly what they do. In 5 plays, it's Khalil Herbert pounding it in from 3 yards out to get the Bears a multi-possession lead. Santos would miss the extra point again, which there's a bit of concern there now that Santos missed 2 extra points. The Bears still had a multi-possession lead. The Niners would just try, as after Herbert ended up scoring this touchdown, the rain really started to get bad again. It was pretty bad at the early in the game and during pregame, but it was getting bad again down at the end of this game here, and the Niners down 2 scores. They couldn't perform. They couldn't convert, and they end up turning the ball over on downs with about 3.5 minutes to go. They end up stopping the Bears on the ensuing drive using their timeouts. Get the ball with about 2.5 minutes to go, and it's basically unplayable conditions. They don't convert on fourth down again. And the Bears take a knee and finish this upset. Let me tell you what, this is surprising for a lot of people. And in the early game, the Bears looked not great on their first drive, as expected. They end up forcing a fumble off of Deebo Samuel in the red zone on the 49ers' first drive, but then Justin Fields would end up throwing an interception to Talanoa Hufanga, who had a fantastic game for San Francisco. He was the number one threat for that team, and he was a safety, making big tackles for losses. Played a great game. This could be a great season for Hufanga. But the problem lies with the 49ers. They shot themselves in the foot a ton in this game. And frankly, this was a game that was won partly due to some great passing from Justin Fields and the Bears, and taking opportunities and converting on opportunities, but more so because the Niners kept shooting themselves in the foot with penalties. On that touchdown drive to Equanimeous St. Brown, 2 penalties of 15 yards extended this drive and led to a touchdown that the Niners really shouldn't have let up. And by the end of the during the second half, the Niners, they were taking a lot of really dumb penalties, frankly. And the Bears did really good on not having many penalties. They had a couple in the first half, but it was honestly nice and refreshing to see the Bears not be the ones shooting themselves in the foot by a bunch of penalties. And the other team was actually the one doing the shooting themselves in the foot, taking all the penalties. So that was a nice change of pace. And I'm really proud of the team for being really good and conditioned enough to not take enough penalties, and especially not any dumb penalties. The only dumb penalty was the unsportsmanlike conduct with the punter, but I don't even know how to adjust that. I don't even really want to blame him. I don't really feel like I should blame him. I mean, I don't know. Do with it as you wish. I'm not here to tell you if it was a right call, if it was a dumb call, or whatever. It was a call that was made. But overall, when the Bears were able to score that touchdown, that was the break they needed. Because from then on out, it looked like they had the momentum. We really did look like we were the better team in the second half. Frankly, because we weren't committing many penalties, and we were able to convert on our plays. We were able to convert third downs. We were able to convert and pick up first downs. And granted, some of them came from penalties, but you don't necessarily ask how you get them. You just get them, and you just need to get conversions. And sometimes there will be calls that you may not agree with as a fan. You're like, I don't think that was a right call. But, the other team's like, look, okay, it may not have been a great call, but we got to capitalize on it. And the Bears in the second half, they were capitalizing on a lot of plays and a lot of penalties, whereas the Niners were not. And not necessarily because we didn't really get penalized at all, but the Niners were also converting. They were also just turning the ball over through punting, not by turning it over on downs. They had that one interception, but overall, I think the weather was definitely a factor in this one as well. The weather definitely played a factor in the fact that this was Trey Lance's first start knowing that he's the starter going forward. And Trey Lance didn't have an awful game. I didn't think. He had the one interception, yes, but I didn't think he had a terrible game. I thought he played pretty well. He did great with his legs, was the Niners' leading rusher. And I thought he played a pretty good game. And a lot of the faults the Niners had, I wouldn't say was his fault. I made a couple really nice throws. I think that Lance will be pretty good, but I still am not a huge fan of the decision from Kyle Shanahan to just bench Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe if Trey Lance plays really well this season, I'll change my mind, but as it stands right now, I feel like that Jimmy Garoppolo should still be the starter in San Francisco. But that's just how I feel. And I'm not a Niners fan, so yeah, that's my take on the situation, at least. But Next week, speaking of next week, it's Green Bay and Lambeau. I remember seeing that on the schedule and knowing and thinking, I am glad that we're getting this out early. And we're gonna have our national embarrassment against the Packers and Lambeau early in the year. So it's not gonna be like, if somehow, theoretically, if the Bears somehow pull off, some wins and are in a position where they may be fighting for playoff spots, they don't have to go to Lambeau late in the year. The bad news is we do have Buffalo at the end of the year, so that is the tough game that we're going to be having on the road. But after the game against Lambeau, they're at home against the Texans, who just tied against the Colts and blew a 17-point lead against the Colts. They didn't lose, but they didn't win either. So that's the game. That's like a prime tank bowl game that a lot of people are looking at. But I'm hopeful that the Bears will end up getting that win at home against Houston and going to 2-1. They then go to New York to play the Giants in MetLife, which don't know how that's going to go. Hope they get that one too, which would be really weird to see the Bears start 3-1. This is a great way to start the season. I'm going to tell you what. I was not expecting this. I was expecting to keep it close, but the Niners to pull away. But they kept it close. Not only that, but they ended up winning by 9. So next week is Green Bay. The Bears, what are they going to do to try and find a way to beat Aaron Rodgers? They're going to have to stick around and wait to see what happens between the Packers and the Vikings in Minnesota. But until then, the Bears are 1-0 as they go to Lambeau to play Green Bay. So, Bears are 1-0. This is exciting. That's going to do it for this one. If you liked it, please hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more reactions from me. That's going to do it for me. I will see you all next week. See you, everyone.